Bienvenidos a un nuevo especial de Realpolitik Televisión, en este caso una vez más para dedicarnos a una temática de índole internacional y para hablar puntualmente de lo que sucede al sur de Asia y más precisamente con el avance del régimen talibán en Afganistán. Uno de los grandes actores en este escenario es sin duda la República Islámica de Pakistán por el rol que cumple como país limítrofe. Y bueno, estamos en la embajada de Pakistán para hablar con su embajador, Mohammed Khalid Ejaz. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, embajador, si le parece, aprovechando un poco la distancia cultural, geográfica que hay entre ambos países, hacer una pequeña introducción respecto a su país, su economía, su sociedad, su gente, la diversidad cultural, como para ir comenzando.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity to talk to you. And Realpolitik is a wonderful channel, and you have a lot of presence. And let me tell you about my country very briefly. That Pakistan is a very vibrant country, and it is located in South Asia, but it is at the crossroad of West Asia, China, and other side, Middle East. So it has a very strategic location, and the Pakistan's population is around 215 million, and more than 60% of our population is less than 33 years of age. So it is considered one of the very youthful or young people of young people country. So it is a very vibrant country. People are like Argentina. They are very friendly. They are very tolerant because of the, they are exposed to international arena. So they are very, they love and enjoy playing, cricket, hockey, some football as well, not like yours, but football. Polo as well is played there. And these people are actively engaged in all sorts of activities, and women are also playing due role in our society. They are in every segment of our society. Women are playing roles. They are ambassadors, women ambassadors. They are doctors, engineers, IT professionals, even the army and police and administration. Say wherever these girls and women are also playing their very important role. So about the geography of my country and about the history of my country is that, Pakistan, you might be knowing that Indus Valley civilization. So Indus Valley civilization existed more than 5,000 years ago. So that is the land of those area, and even we have some ruins which are found in Pakistan in some part which is more than 7,000 years old. So the Indus civilization existed there 5,000 years ago, and still we have ruins of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, which you can assess how these people were civilized, how they had their bricks roads and houses and everything were there. Then there existed Gandhara civilization as well. It was mostly a Buddhist civilization, and it also existed more than 2,000 years ago. So still we have remnants of those in Taxila, Peshawar and other areas. So we inherited a lot of cultural underpinnings and a lot of cultural things. And then when the Muslim arrived in subcontinent around 710 AD and like that era, they provided a special identity and a special culture because the Muslims, they preserved their own highly civilized culture and identity, and they were very proud of their own system and values. So they were not absorbed in the whole environment of the subcontinent, rather they preserved their identity. So Muslims came as the traders, Muslims came as rulers, Muslim armies also came, and a lot of interaction from different nooks and corners of the Indian subcontinent of the Muslims. And then Muslims, there was a Muslim rule of which was established, properly established in Delhi, New Delhi, now we call in Delhi, which is called Delhi Sultanate. So that existed for hundreds of years, that provided a lot of architectural buildings to the Indian subcontinent, and then came the Mughal era. You might be familiar that Mughals came in 1526, and they provided, they were very cultural, Mughal cultural people. They provided exquisite culture of to the whole environment of the subcontinent. Their cuisine were very special, their dresses were very special, their architecture is still marvelous. You might have heard about Shalimar Gardens and so many other gardens. So we inherited all these things, and then at one time when the British colonized this part of the world, they had ruled for around 150 years, but once our forefathers, they had a heroic struggle for the independence of that area. And you might have seen this Minar-e-Pakistan which we were talking. That was a place when in 1940 our forefathers gathered and they resolved that they want to have separate Muslim state of Pakistan. So after a struggle of further struggle, after that resolution of 7 years, Pakistan came into existence in 1947, and then we are a sovereign independent nation, and we in the Committee of Nations we are playing our due roles. Then about you have asked about the economy. Pakistan economy, is in this COVID era. Incidentally, it had bode very well despite challenges in the last 2 years. This year we have seen a growth of 3.94% GDP growth. So we consider that if we compare with other similar economies of the world, our economy had performed very well. It's a robust economy. It has a lot of resilience into it. Despite challenges, our economy has proven very well. And then in the economic sector, I would like to point out 2-3 aspects which may be of great interest to Argentina as well. One is that climate change. Pakistan is one of the country which is most affected by the climate change in the world, but we are not the polluters of the world. In case of emission of gases, we are in the low. But Pakistan's current Prime Minister Imran Khan, he launched a program which was called 1 billion tree project. Then when after a successful work of 1 billion tree project, we embarked on 10 billion tree project. So we wanted to either plant 10 billion trees or those which are dying or regeneration. So in the last 2 years, around 800 million trees were planted or regenerated in Pakistan, which is marvelous. You might have heard the international leaders in the UN which have categorically said that the record of Pakistan in this era is very great. So this is also great interest to our fellows in Argentina as well. And the other aspect of economy is that despite COVID, government remained very firm that we can't go to full lockdown. So we did not go to the full lockdown. There were only very small lockdowns, partial lockdowns for few hours sometime in some areas. So the country remained functional most of the time, and we managed because it's a country of 215 million people. So we managed very well as compared to our neighbors. So while the incidence of COVID remained low, and our industries continued, our economy continued working, so that was because of the resolve of the Imran Khan government that our economy continued. That's how you see that the good results of 3.94 million percent of the GDP growth. Then you had asked about the diversity of my country. You know that Pakistan is traditionally its strategic location is a crossroad of various cultures. While we took so many good things from different cultures, so many we inherited from our, but we have our own distinct identity and culture as well. See about the language, Urdu. Our national language, Urdu, is not only well understood and spoken to subcontinent region, but even in the Middle Eastern countries, when you go, you find it's one of the biggest language of the Muslims and others. They speak in Middle Eastern countries, like if you go in Dubai, streets of Dubai or Abu Dhabi or even Makkah or Medina, you will find people speaking in Urdu. So it is one of the language which grew up in Indian environment or a subcontinent environment, and now it's a very vibrant language. So despite Urdu as our national language or an official language, we also use English as our official language, and then we have other around 8 major languages which are spoken in Pakistan. Every area has its own language, full-fledged language. Then more than 80 small languages are also there, 83 to be very precise. Small languages are spoken in my country, and more than 500 dialects. So just to speak about the diversity, if you just take only one aspect of a language, so it has so much diversity in every part of the world. People are very vibrant, they are very tolerant people. Pakistanis are very tolerant, very hospitable. When you walk through any street of Pakistan, you will find that people are very caring, loving and hospitable. So this is about diversity, and we have our minorities in Pakistan. They are well respected, we provide them constitutional guarantees, and they are thriving, their churches are open, and the other minorities are also well protected. So while Pakistan is predominantly a Muslim country of more than 96% people, but our minorities also enjoy constitutional and other protection, and they are doing very well. One point which I would like to mention, which may be of interest to our Argentinian friends, is that we have Himalayas and Karakoram, the two mountain ranges, and K2, which is the second highest peak, more than 8,611 meters high. It's in Pakistan, northern areas, and more than 100 peaks are more than 7,000 meters high. So that's how so many mountaineers are attracted from this part of the world as well, to go to see the northern areas of Pakistan. They try to climb various mountains, even K2, and so this is about the northern areas. And on the other side, where we have recently developed a port which is called Gwadar Port. Gwadar Port is considered one of the deepest natural water seaport of the world, and it is now open for trade. And this, from the Gwadar Port and through roads, we are linked to Western China, and as well as to Afghanistan, to Central Asian countries. So it creates an opportunity for Argentinian businessmen as well, who also export grains, who want to export grains to that region. They can utilize that Gwadar Port facilities of putting their sending their grains, exporting their grains to in a big quantity and storing there, and then supplying it to the neighboring countries. So all these things are great, and I'm looking forward for greater interaction between our Argentinian friends. And
bueno, muy interesante, embajador, muy interesante. ¿Qué nos puede decir sobre la actualidad política de Pakistán? ¿Qué sucede hoy por hoy en Pakistán?
Pakistan is a democratic country, and it's a republic. So currently the government it has completed its 3 years. The tenure of the government is 5 years. So the government has entered into its 4th year. We have a vibrant democracy. We have a federal polity like Argentina. So the provincial governments are also functioning. Provincial legislatures are also functioning, and in these are going very well, and people voices are heard, and government responds to the various challenges, and so the politics in Pakistan is, I think, going very well, and basically the purpose of this current government is to provide social protection in the last 2 years to the common man, so men and women. So with the SAS program, which we called is a special program which provided social protection. It was around around $1 billion cash disbursement were made to the families in Pakistan, and it was a huge program for the families who were vulnerable and who needed some assistance. So government provided one-time cash disbursement to them. So it's one of the success stories of the current government as well. So while the government is also internationally very active, and we are also, this government and other earlier governments are also proponent of multilateralism in the international arena, as well as South cooperation. So Argentina and Pakistan are very active internationally for fomenting and for encouraging South cooperation. So in the current government is also very focused for developing good linkages with similar countries internationally, for working for peace and stability of not only the region, rather the entire world.
¿Cómo ha vivido Pakistán la aparición del régimen talibán? No la última aparición, la última reaparición en realidad, sino su aparición formal, que fue alrededor del año 96 con su llegada al poder.
Yes, thank you. You have brought a very important aspect because let me take you to the historical background of that. When the Soviet Union, the erstwhile Soviet Union, when they came into Afghanistan, the international community, including America and others, they trained mujahideen and to fight against the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. So after 20 years of lot of fighting and lot of international support, these mujahideen ultimately they defeated the armies, Soviet Union armies, and then there was an agreement, an accord, and in 1989 the Soviet forces withdrew from Afghanistan. As the Soviet forces withdrew from Afghanistan, the international community also walked away from Afghanistan. They did not pay attention to the fact that those enthusiastic mujahideens who have traveled from different parts of the world, now they are in Afghanistan. They have military might. They know they're guerrillas. They know how to fight. So what to do? So international community said, okay, this is the problem of Afghanistan. Now we have gained our objectives of defeating the USSR or repulsing the Russian forces. So once after 1989 till the arrival of Taliban in 1996, there was a lot of infighting between various mujahideen groups for takeover in Kabul as well as for various others, and that ensued civil war situation, and around, it is estimated that 200,000 Afghanis lost their lives during those 6-7 years era. And then every day the life was not protected. Every warlord has its own territory. When you pass your commercial goods or any other goods, you have to pay some extra taxes to every warlord. So it said that after every 50 kilometers you have to pay some taxes to various warlords, or fiefdoms had been created. So the people were very upset because of the economic situation, because of those situations, and there were narcotics trade and so many upsets. So in that time, when the people became they were upset by the lack of peace and stability. So the forces, Afghan forces, the Afghan Taliban, they emerged on the scene and they defeated various Afghan factions, and they established their rule in Kabul in 1996. So during the era of Taliban, international agencies have also reported that they tried to curb the narcotics trade, and the growth of poppy was at one time estimated to be almost brought to zero level, and people had a sort of semblance of peace and stability, though despite lot of shortcomings of that era, and you know, because Taliban, they are mostly Pashtuns, so they had their own tribalistic traditions. So some tribalistic traditions and their own situation, ground realities, had also created a lot of misunderstandings abroad and some of these things. And then you find that the incidents of 9/11 happened, and then you can see that what happened, you know, the modern history. So at that time, Pakistan, because we have around 2,600 kilometers border with Afghanistan, we are the neighbors. So some Pashtuns live on our side of the border, the other Pashtuns live on the other side of the border. So at one time during the whole period, we received around 5 million Afghan refugees. Currently, we still have 3 million Afghan refugees on our soil. So for the last 40 years, Pakistan is bearing the burden of taking care of around 3 million Afghan refugees. So because we are neighbors and we have so many bondage, we have cultural affinity, we have religious affinity, we have, you know, linguistic affinities, food are some of our one part of that food and their food are similar. So because of that, our histories and are intertwined, our relations are intertwined. So we can't separate ourselves from Afghanistan situation, be it 96 or be it 2021. So in that scenario, Pakistan had in its understanding, Pakistan has developed, tried to work in the international scenario at that time.
Bueno, justamente una de las consultas que teníamos tenía que ver con el rol humanitario de Pakistán, y sería interesante conocer cuál fue el impacto detrás de esa ola de inmigrantes o de refugiados, mejor dicho, perdón, que ingresaron al país. ¿Cómo impactó eso? Me imagino que por un lado económicamente, pero debe haber tenido otras consecuencias.
So thank you very much. This is a very pertinent question, and you know, as I have explained in the last question, that the Afghans and our history are intertwined because we are neighbors and we have so many affinities with each other. So if there is peace in Afghanistan, if there is stability in Afghanistan, then there would be stability in the whole region. So we have explained, and we have been telling the international community that that this is the time for healing of the wounds of Afghans, because for the last more than 4 decades they are bleeding due to one reason to the other. Now let give peace a chance, and if the peace is in Afghanistan and there is economic activities in Afghanistan, and the international community come forward for helping the Afghans build their economy, then that peace dividend, not only Afghans would benefit, but the peace dividend would be benefited by all the neighbors and by the international community as well. But if there is no peace in Afghanistan, then you know, it again the warlordism or petty, you know, small corners would develop, where some of the spoilers of peace would get hold of that territory or area, and then they would continue to attack or to disturb the peace and stability of the region. You look at the previous last two years before the fall of Kabul to Taliban, more than 850 terrorist attacks emanated from Afghanistan to Pakistan. So there were so many terrorist groups operating during Ashraf Ghani's regime in Kabul, which were operating against my country, attacking Pakistan and wounding and taking life and property and damaging. So Pakistan had paid immense cost during the last 20 years. More than 80,000 Pakistanis died. It's a huge number. 80,000 Pakistanis died in the last 20 years because of these terrorist activities, terrorist attacks inside Pakistan. Our military forces also lost so many brave soldiers. Our economy is estimated to have lost about $150 billion. Loss of economy, our infrastructure has been damaged, so many damages. Now we want that if peace is given a chance, and if international community come forward with providing some aid and help, then definitely the whole region would benefit. You can estimate that previous Ashraf Ghani government used to have 75 or more than 75% aid from outside to run their budget, to run the country. And now if the international community does not come forward, then definitely there would be unrest in Afghanistan, and then we would be having huge influx of refugees, activities, economic meltdown. And so let's give peace a chance. And for the other international humanitarian workers, as you know, that Taliban, they announced from very day first of amnesty to everybody, irrespective of that. That was welcomed by all international community as well as Pakistan. Because of that, definitely if there was no amnesty or civil war, then it would have been a lot of influx of refugees. But those who wanted to leave Afghanistan, they were allowed to leave, and now Pakistan embassy as well as our consulates in Kabul and as well as other cities, they are functioning, fully functioning. Every day they are around the clock, they are working and helping diplomats, their dependents, government officials, NGO, humanitarian workers and others, and their families, and those Afghans who want to leave Afghanistan. We are helping them to leave through various means. Some of the Afghanis also crossed illegally to our country, and some of our neighboring countries of Latin American countries also. They wanted these people to come to those countries. We facilitated them, and it has been acknowledged, widely acknowledged by not only by media but by diplomats, international community, that Pakistan is playing a very vital role, very important role in humanitarian assistance. And we are also providing food, medicines and others, because if there is food shortages, or if there is shortages of medicine and medical equipment, then there would be huge repercussions. So Pakistan is playing its due role and alerting the international community about the pitfalls if there is no peace in Afghanistan. And we feel that as whatever the Taliban has given pledges, let's see how do they move forward. So we have to give them a chance to work, and then we can, because it's just a few days or few weeks that has passed. So our embassy and our consulates are functioning very well, and people are coming and going. The trade is also going on between Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Bueno, además del conflicto que mantiene, o del conflicto, de la frontera en conflicto que mantiene Pakistán con Afganistán, Pakistán tiene un problema histórico de límites con India por el control de lo que se conoce como Cachemira. ¿Por qué no nos cuenta un poco cuáles fueron los orígenes de este conflicto y, sobre todo, cuál es la actualidad de ese conflicto? Si Pakistán tiene que convivir con estos dos frentes actualmente.
So thank you very much for bringing this very important the dispute between India and Pakistan, of Kashmir dispute, because it has threatened the peace and stability of the region. You have asked about the origin of this conflict or this dispute. Actually, it's the remnant of the British colonial era. When the British left India at that time, more than 7 decades ago, what happened? There was some principle of what we call principle of partition, or the principle on which India and Pakistan came into existence. There was an understanding that at that time around more than 525 small states, which were called princely states, were there in the whole subcontinent, and there was a British India. So the two dominions which came into existence, one was India and the other was Pakistan. It was the princely states of more than 500 princely states, they were given a chance to either join Pakistan or India or remain independent. There was and the basic principle was understanding was that the Muslim majority areas would go towards Pakistan and the others would go towards India. So, based on that principle, Kashmir was and is a Muslim majority territory area, princely state, and the people of that area wanted and still wants to join Pakistan. Our rivers flows, the geography of the region is such that Pakistan and Kashmir are joined together, but due to the situation which was created at that time, the Indian forces, they occupied part of Kashmir, and then there was people uprising, and India had gone to United Nations and said that okay, we will respect the rights of the people to determine what they want. So, India gave solemn pledges to international community and United Nations that there would be a free and fair plebiscite in the region, and people would be allowed to decide about their destiny, about their future. But that free and fair plebiscite could never happen in the last more than 7 decades. And the people of Jammu and Kashmir had an epic struggle for their freedom, heroic struggle. They had made huge sacrifices. They have never accepted the foreign occupation, and they had always fought for their freedom and for their birthright of right to self-determination. And the United Nations has granted them this right, so they are still struggling. Regarding the current situation, let me tell you that that 8 million people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, they are under double lockdown. One lockdown is definitely because of the COVID situation, but the other lockdown is that more than 800,000 military forces and paramilitary forces are there to subjugate and to suppress their voices. So, the Kashmiris have struggled. Despite all these things, their women have been molested, their girls have been molested, their freedom of expression has been deprived. They were deprived of their freedom of expression. So, there are humanitarian situation and human rights violation in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And very recently, you might have heard the death of a veteran Kashmiri leader, Sayyid Ali Asad Gilani. He struggled for around 50 years for this, and he died at very old age, in a very frail age. And even according to his wishes, he was to be buried in a Muslim special cemetery of martyrs, and the family wanted to bury his dead body there, but the Indian forces entered in their house and snatched the dead body and did not allow the family even to bury the dead person to a special cemetery. So, that shows that the use of force and the lack of freedom, expression of freedom, these are real concerns for not only for Pakistan, but for the international community. And I know that the Argentina and the Latin American countries have traditionally been very vocal in supporting people's rights and human rights issues. And you know that Chile and Uruguay had traditionally provided observers, military observers, in the second oldest UN mission, which is called UNMOGIP, means United Nations Military Observer Group between India and Pakistan. It is the second oldest UN mission. It supervises the ceasefire, between India and Pakistan, and we are encouraged and we are happy to note that for the first time Argentina has also sent 2 of the military observers to that disputed area last year, 2021. Previously, we had seen Chile sending observers for last more than 70 years, around 70 years. Even Uruguay had been participating, but this is encouraging to see a lot of interest in Argentina in that region, which is a very volatile region, and in Kashmir, these military observers are currently operating. 2 observers are also there from Argentina.
Embajador, aunque usted ya hizo alguna mención respecto a la relación bilateral que une a Pakistán con Argentina, sería interesante, hacia modo de cierre, que nos dé un poco más de información al respecto sobre el vínculo que mantienen ambos países.
Thank you very much. Argentina and Pakistan had enjoyed traditionally wonderful relations, and we had collaborated in the international arena, United Nations and other fora for multilateralism. We have commonality of views on so many issues, and our diplomats knew each other very well. We have a wonderful Argentina Park in Islamabad, heart of Islamabad. There's a huge park in Islamabad which is named Argentina Park in Pakistan because of our love with Argentinians. And I grew up in Islamabad and I saw those in my early life. It was built in 70s, early 70s. But because of the distances, huge distances, the people of the 2 countries did not know much about it, and there were some barriers of language as well. And we have a very small Pakistani community here. But with the international scenario, things changing with the IT, development of IT, and availability of online translations. So now we have seen in the last 2 years very increasing of our bilateral relations in all fields, and not only in the trade and economy sector and technical cooperation, in afforestation, in scientific collaboration, in health sector collaboration, how to combat COVID, how to benefit from each other in social protection, and so many aspects. So after more than 12 years, Pakistan and Argentina had recently a joint commission meeting. It was practically preceded by technical groups from the 2 sides, more than 10 institutions from Argentinian side and 10 from Pakistani side. They deliberated numerous sessions, and then there was a joint commission meeting in which we discussed so many things. So that is also provided a very wonderful framework for our growth in our trade and economic relations. Then we had a bilateral political consultation which also happened after 5 years, more than 5 years, in which we discussed the broader outview of our political, how can we discuss and consult each other on broader issues. And these has brought Pakistan and Argentina further close. And then on the cultural side, the 2 countries are getting very close, and some of the commonalities between Pakistan and Argentina is you might be knowing that Pakistan won the Hockey World Cup in the Polo Ground, and at that time the Argentinian spectators, they supported Pakistan in the final, and we won the gold medal here, so we celebrate that as well. And so we are thinking to increase our cultural relations as well. So for the first time, a book on the Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, Sir Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal, who is considered as the founding father of Pakistan. He is considered as one of the greatest Muslim thinkers of the last century. He died in 1938, but he is considered as the greatest philosopher. One of the book on him has been published written by a local author from Argentina, and the book is in Spanish with English translation as well. So that also shows that we are working towards understanding about the cultural things. And then about national language of Pakistan, Urdu, Embassy of Pakistan and CARI, the Council of international relations of Argentina. They have joined together, hands together, and there are some classes for their researchers and sort of joint groups where our volunteers provide them some cultural aspect of Pakistan, how what is our culture, how is our cuisine, how our food making, and then about language. So these things are bringing people of the two countries together, and we are planning to hold a polo match in Lahore as well in coming months. You know, Argentina has a wonderful polo players. Polo players regularly visit Pakistan, but this time we are planning to hold some matches with them. Argentinians also go to K2, some mountaineers, and there is some mountaineers have gone from this region as well as in Chile to that region. So cultural relations is very important. Contact, people to people contact is also very important, and I am also very thankful to Realpolitik because you provide the cultural link between the two countries, and you know, it is your love for bilateral relations that we are here talking about, thinking about these two countries, wonderful countries which has traditionally worked for South-South cooperation. So now they are coming closer to each other, trying to understand their problems. Like you have also, this media is taking great interest in the Kashmir dispute, and you know what Afghanistan, what are going on. So these interests show that Argentina is poised to play, and Argentina is playing already wonderful role in the international arena. And the vibrant media which I see in Argentina is a very vibrant media. Your media is very active. So they are taking great interest in all those disputes, all those issues, all those social, cultural and economic issues of my region. Thank you very much for taking all such interest.
Gracias.